We're going to talk about the Detroit Pistons. Yeah, 20-46 last year. They're going to do better, but their free agency was one of the weirdest free agencies, I think. Somebody tweeted out that when Mason Plumlee and Jeremy Grant shared the floor in Denver, like statistically from an advanced analytics standpoint, they were not a playoff team. So Detroit went out and gave them $85 million total, like through both of them. That's not good. And you look at they signed Jahlil Okafor. Why? It just didn't make much sense. Now their draft with Killian Hayes, that's a good pick. He's going to become their starter. Sadiq Bey was a guy I was really high on, but then they also drafted Isaiah Stewart. So why draft Isaiah Stewart and then sign Okafor and Mason Plumlee? Like, what's the point of that? They did let Christian Wood walk, but I don't know.
I think losing Christian Wood is just a marginal mistake. And the reason why I say that is Christian Wood was likely their best player last year, right?
Yeah.
And who else was one of their best players? Luke Kennard. They gave him up for nothing. Nothing. Like, who gets Luke Kennard for Landry Shamet? That is a terrible trade when it comes to Detroit. I've heard praises of Troy Weaver, but I haven't seen him do anything good yet. Anything. And that's why when I hear all these praises from people about how good of a GM Troy Weaver is, I get shocked. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'll say that the Killian Hayes pick was good, but like you pick 7th, you have a hole at point guard, and he's the best point guard available. I mean, that's like a shoe-in pick. You know what I mean? Like that's nothing to like praise somebody for.
Exactly. You don't get praised for picking a guy that falls to you. Just like Vlade should not have got praised for picking De'Aaron. Because when you get a pick that falls into your lap,
Yeah, take it.
if you don't make it, then good. You'll end up like Vlade, and you'll pass on a guy like
if you pass it on a guy like Luka for Bagley, yeah, you deserve to get fired. But he shouldn't have got praised if he did take Luka over Bagley. I mean, it's common sense. When a common sense pick appears, like it shows itself, you have to make that pick.
Yeah. There's your weekly shot at Marvin Bagley. Yeah. Again, when you go and get Isaiah Stewart, like you said, why are you getting Jahlil Okafor, Mason Plumlee? It just like it makes no sense to me getting guys like this. I'm very disappointed in Detroit. I want them to eventually become a good team. I was a big fan of the old school Detroit Pistons with Chauncey and Rip. And I actually used to have a Ben Wallace jersey, so I was a Detroit bandwagon at one point. That's a fun fact.
They gave Bruce Brown to Brooklyn for no reason. Like, there was no reason to just give Bruce Brown away. I mean, he's not like going to make or break a team or anything, but like that's a solid defensive guard. Like that's not a bad guy to have on your roster, and he was cheap. Like, I don't know. I will say in regards of letting Christian Wood walk, I can sort of understand why, because he was undrafted and he's a new GM coming in and you're like, I don't really know if I feel comfortable giving this guy like the largest guaranteed contract for an undrafted player as like my first big move. Because if it blows up and it turns out that it was just like a 2-month stretch of just good basketball, then you look like an idiot. So I kind of understand letting him walk.
Yeah, that's why it's a good trade to do Luke Kennard for Landry Shamet, actually.
But again, that one, why?
But that's my point. You can't say you don't want to make the big splash of getting an undrafted free agent and giving him the most amount of money, but then say, oh, yeah, well, I'll give away my best player for a pocket of change. Like, it just, to me, unless you're trading Luke Kennard for the first rounder, it makes no sense to me. Luke Kennard was a player that a lot of people were comparing to Buddy Hield. Look at Monty McNair's doing. Monty McNair is holding out for Buddy Hield. I don't get Troy Weaver. I don't get the hype in him. These decisions just seem like there's going to be a lot of mistakes on the way. And probably his best free agent move was picking up Josh Jackson. Yeah. And that's a guy that has a lot of bad history too.
And he's from Detroit. And like, I pray that it works out for Josh Jackson. But I don't know. You have a guy who has off-court problems and you bring him home.
Yeah, bring him home. Where his family is, where his friends are, childhood friends, like. And Detroit, again, Detroit's not the best of places, too.
What about Chicago, though? Nah, I'm playing. But I don't know. Their best move was making an obvious draft pick and picking up a guy who was a high draft pick but had struggles every single stop of his career so far. It doesn't look good.
Well, at least they have Thon Maker.
No, they lost Don Maker. He signed freaking Cleveland.
I don't know what they have.
They don't
I
have
know.
anything. They
I know
suck.
what we do have. We have our buy or sell segment, and we want to talk about some Detroit Pistons. Let's hear what GM Troy Weaver, who we just talked about, had to say about Jeremy Grant.
Pistons GM Troy Weaver talked today about adding Jeremy Grant and Josh Jackson. Grant, he said, was a guy he targeted from the start. Hard-nosed, versatile forward. Weaver thinks Detroit fans will like him.
The Pistons had two iterations of great teams, and Jeremy could play on both teams.
So that's Troy Weaver, GM of the Detroit Pistons, saying that Jeremy Grant was his number one target this offseason. Caleb, do you buy or sell that Jeremy Grant is worth being a number one target for Detroit?
I know it was a weak offseason, but god damn, that was your best option. I'm selling that. There's no way he is for real about that. That might be what he says now, just to make Jeremy Grant happy, but there's no way he's actually truthful with that. I'm selling that.
I think it's like this. Do you remember when post-draft, every GM, what do they say? They always talk about a player. What is the one thing they say about the player?
This was the guy we wanted from the start of the draft.
To me, it's like every single team says, this is the guy we wanted. This was our first option.
But hold on. Could you imagine the media storm it would cause if a GM was like, well, you know, he wasn't our first option, but when guys get taken before you can pick them, I mean, what are you supposed to do?
It'd be funny if a GM was like, well, you know, our first 5 options went away. So we kind of got stuck with him. But, I mean, I heard he's going to be a decent prospect. It's not too bad.
Yeah, I was listening to the Dimers basketball podcast, and Caleb talked about the draft guy, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll draft him. And then here we are.
Well, hopefully that's not how teams are scouting. Based on what we talked about last week of how NBA Twitter is like how GMs act, I wouldn't be surprised. All right?
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to sell. I don't know how Jeremy Grant could be your number one target. You honestly – scratch that. I'm going buy, and here's why. Troy Weaver to me just seems like he has no clue what he's really doing. I don't think he deserves the praise he should be getting.
Why is he getting this much praise? He came from Oklahoma City, right?
Yes.
Okay, this reminds me of like the NFL coaching thing, how like Sam Presti's doing good, so you're like, okay, let's take all the guys from him. Just like how Bill Belichick does good, and they like, okay, let's just take all the coaches under him. You know what I mean?
Well, NBA does that too. I mean, with Greg Popovich, his coaching tree is so large, but yet they all
it don't
suck.
work like that, bro. Like it's not, you got to. It might work. We might look like idiots in 2 years. Like this might just be part of a master plan. I doubt it. I do not think he deserves this much praise. I'm sure that Abe is going to get very upset because I know Abe also likes Troy Weaver.
Yeah, and I know every time Abe brings up Troy Weaver, I'm always like, okay.
No. I'm just like, no.
I'm just like, no, this is Harry Giles all over again. You're just wrong. You're a wrong human being.
Yeah, wrong.
Kidding, we love you. Next up, let's go to Blake Griffin. He didn't have much to say during media day, so I'm just going to ask you straight up, buy or sell, Blake Griffin will get traded before the deadline.
Dude, honestly, I'm holding. I don't know what Detroit's doing. I have no clue. Like, they've drafted decent, but then they've also spent money horribly in free agency. So I don't know if they're trying to, like, kind of compete or if they're just trying to draft well and build up prospects. I have no clue what their plan is.
I'm confused. And this was going to be one of our questions. I decided to scratch it because we kind of talked about it the whole time. But one of the questions is going to be, are they trying to win or are they trying to tank?
We don't know, man.
I don't know. And that goes the same with Blake Griffin. He could easily get traded, and I wouldn't be surprised if Troy Weaver got something out of him. But based on what I've seen from the Luke Kennard trade, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Blake Griffin in a first-round pick for, Miles Plumlee. Get the Plumlee brothers on board.
Get them both together.
I don't know. I mean, I would be shocked to see Blake Griffin on the roster past next year, though. I will say that.
Yeah. Like, my gut feeling would tell me that he is going to get traded. But then, like, I look at their signings, and I'm like, well, it kind of seems like they want to try to win a little bit. Like, I don't know.
Well, I know a point guard that's very excited to play this year, and that's Derrick Rose. Let's hear what he had to say about his young point guard that he's going to mentor.
Love his game. It's an honor to play with a talent like that. Someone I look at the league, and for me being 6'3", I'm kind of like a dinosaur. When you look at all the new guards in the league, you have to be at least 6'5" and up. And 10 years from now, they'll probably be 6'6" or 6'7" at the point guard spot. But for him, I already talked to him, told him that he was the future of the team. And to know that it's no competing. We're here. My job here is to push him and groom him into a great player, and to try to get on as much in practice as possible, because in the games, he's a kid, and coming from overseas, guys are going to try to play aggressive with him. So it's my job to play aggressive on him throughout this whole camp, so that when he's in the regular game, he won't feel that much pressure.
So that's point guard Derrick Rose, veteran point guard Derrick Rose, talking about how he's ready to mentor Killian Hayes and how he's ready to really give him the keys. Killian Hayes, obviously, he's hyped as probably one of the top point guards in this draft. My question to you, Killian Hayes is the best point guard in this draft. Are you buying or are you selling?
Selling. I think LaMelo Ball is going to be the best point guard in the draft. But I will say Killian Hayes is going to be a top 3 player from this draft, maybe.
That wasn't the question, though.
I know, but I feel bad because I really like Killian Hayes, but I'm also a bigger LaMelo Ball fan. And I feel like Ball's going to be the top point guard, but I don't feel like Killian's going to be, really far behind. I like his fit in Detroit, but then again, now I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, well, who's he really fit next to?
What fit?
There really isn't one, dude. But here's my thing: when you draft a guy, I like to have one guy in place that he can go to, and I feel like that's Derrick Rose. But I don't know, maybe Blake Griffin, but he's hurt all the time. And truthfully, will he play another game for the Pistons this year before he gets traded? We don't know, because there's no sort of pattern on this roster.
I was honestly surprised when I saw that Derrick Rose was still on the roster. I was like, okay, the smart thing to do, any smart GM, right? What did Sam Presti do with Dennis Schroeder? He got rid of him. There was rumors about Rose to the Lakers for months now. Derrick Rose is still on the freaking Detroit Pistons. I don't get it. We have them ranked 26 on our power rankings. That means they're going to be the top 5 worst teams. How do you be one of the top 5 worst teams and you have this roster that's trying to win, but then at the same time, you don't know if you're tanking? No one has any clue what the hell Troy Weaver's doing. Detroit fans, Pistons fans, whoever you are, please tell us what is going on, because I don't get it. I need to know. I would love to know what Detroit's doing, because it's pissing me the hell off. And frankly, Caleb is getting really angry too, because I've never seen him raise his voice like that.
I'm going to calm down. I don't know. But that's our first 5, right?